Hi folks, John the Great here. Thanks for watching. In 2010, Disney released Tangled, the first CGI animated film that the studio made without the aid of Pixar. While the animation differed from the traditional hand-drawn Disney films, Tangled's storytelling, music, and characters still followed the classic Disney formula. 3 years after Tangled, Disney gave us Frozen, and by now we all know the results. Its characters have quickly implanted themselves in Disney lore, and its songs have been sung to death by both young and old alike.
Just don't go, just don't go, can't hold them back anymore. Just don't go, home to stay, no 4x4.
Given the amount of success generated by both films, and that now we're fully entrenched in the era of the internet, comparisons between the two were bound to spring up and take off. And boy have they ever. The channel Movie Feuds has already done its own video on this topic, and now I'm joining the hoopla. For my video, I'm going to break down both films and thoroughly analyze and compare them in 7 different categories. Once that's done, there will be a clear-cut winner and the debate will be permanently settled. Now before I start, I know there's a common argument that these two films cannot be compared because of their stark differences. While it's true that they are thematically different, their quality level in each category can still be pitted against each other, so it's still on. Do keep in mind that, while one film will win, I really like both, and this video is not an attempt to demean either film's overall high quality. Oh, and it should go without warning, but in case you still need it, spoiler alert. So, without further ado, let the battle royale begin. This is Tangled vs. Frozen.
We are cutting ice, 'cause we are cutting ice.
Let's start with the first element we generally notice about these movies, the animation itself. Both are fully animated in 3D CGI and both are stunning. Look at the vibrant colors used to highlight the incredible environments, and look at the attention to detail in the characters' faces. The movement in both films is fluid, and the characters' expressions let their personalities shine through. I have read a few criticisms claiming that Frozen's setting is a bit gloomier than Tangled's, but that's fitting given that Frozen is set in Scandinavia during winter. And have you seen Scandinavia during winter? So with the quality of animation even, this score needs to be settled from another angle. In this case, the question I ask is whether or not the animation itself can drive the story without any narration or dialogue. In Tangled, this happens during the scenes that feature the king and the queen. Look at their faces. Can we honestly say we don't feel their devastation? This is how pure sadness should be visually displayed. Then at the end of the movie, they grip us again with their expressions of eager anticipation. And when they reunite with Rapunzel, every frame in the sequence is so well drawn that we can't help but empathize with all the characters on screen. In both scenes, the animation is all we need. Words are unnecessary and rightfully left out. Are there moments in Frozen when scenes such as these could have been inserted and made to work? Absolutely there are, but Frozen doesn't include any, and I have to go with what's there. So while both movies had top-notch animation, Tangled stands out more thanks to the silent, story-driven scenes, earning it the first point.
We are cutting ice, 'cause we are cutting ice.
Like animation, voice acting in both movies is superb. Both casts give outstanding performances that really bring their characters to life, and we feel it in their delivery. Disney may not always be perfect in its cast selection, but with these two movies, they are awfully close. Yes, I said awfully close, because as great of a performance as all the voice actors delivered, there are a few times in Tangled when I can hear Mandy Moore and Zachary Levi speaking instead of their characters. They really are small moments scattered here and there, and they do not ruin anything in the movie as a whole, but they're noticeable enough to warrant commenting about. On the other hand, Frozen's cast is consistent throughout the movie. Never once did I hear anything but Elsa and Anna, and never once did I visualize Idina Menzel and Kristen Bell behind a microphone. Moore and Levi are in character almost all the way through, but Menzel and Bell pull it off flawlessly. As for the supporting cast, I thought Donna Murphy was absolutely brilliant as Mother Gothel, and she slightly edges out Santino Fontana's Hans if we're comparing the main villains' voices. Josh Gad was the perfect Olaf, Jonathan Groff did well as Kristoff, and Ron Perlman couldn't have been better as the Stabbington brothers. Still though, it's the main characters we hear most often, and because Menzel and Bell are consistent from start to finish, this point goes to Frozen.
We are cutting ice, 'cause we are cutting ice.
Music is a hard element to judge because in the end it ultimately comes down to individual preferences. Tangled has 4 major original songs, excluding reprisals and a healing song, which I don't consider to be major. That's one fewer than the average Disney musical, and like much of the movie itself, they stick to the traditional Disney formula. There's the Wanting More song, the typical villain song, the dream song, and the romantic duet. Frozen, on the other hand, has 7 major original songs, excluding reprisals, and they take a risk by not sticking to the formula all the way through. We have 2 exposition songs. One introduces us to the setting, and one to the main characters. Yeah, I know it's weird for a movie to have 2, but they actually work and fit well in this case. They're followed by an anticipation song, a more upbeat romantic duet that deviates from the softer duets Disney is well known for, the song that no longer needs to be discussed in any manner, a short solo to give us an idea of Kristoff's issues, a comic relief song, and how the heck do I describe this one? So what's the verdict? Well, here's the thing. While it may not be true, Frozen gives us the impression that its music is what the movie is built around. In other words, the foundation for the entire movie is its music. Sure, that alone doesn't earn it the point, but the music is assembled together nicely overall. The songs are well written, well composed, and catchy as hell. Tangled also has catchy music, but its songs are simply part of the movie. Now don't get me wrong, they fit the story extremely well, probably better than Frozen's songs do. But the music doesn't take center stage. This normally would not be an issue, but since it's supposed to be a traditional Disney musical, it does need to be held to such standards. So even though I think Tangled's signature song is better than Frozen's, I have to give this point to Frozen.
We are cutting ice, 'cause we are cutting ice.
Lead characters are what construct and progress the story, so having strong leads that are well fleshed out is critical. Let's start with Rapunzel, who I think is one of the strongest leads in any Disney animated film. Rapunzel is wonderfully rewritten from the damsel in distress she was in the original fairy tale to an active, spunky, determined, and loyal teen. She shares a ton of traits with the leading ladies of the Disney Renaissance films, but also tops them in many ways. She has the drive to chase her dream like Ariel, but does not come across as whiny and spoiled. She is headstrong and sharp-minded like Jasmine, but she one-ups the Princess of Agrabah by being able to put 2 and 2 together and sniff through all the lies to figure out her own true identity. Unlike Jasmine, who never discovered that Prince Ali isn't, well, Prince Ali. She's as well-rounded as Belle, but while Belle is seen by her town as an outcast, Rapunzel possesses the social charm to quickly win over anyone she tries. She's also very multifaceted, having learned how to paint incredible wall murals and even understand enough astronomy to chart stars. And unlike many past Disney female leads, Rapunzel isn't afraid to step in and resolve a conflict or hold her own ground in a fight. But she's also far from perfect, which makes her relatable. I think 2 scenes really highlight her internal conflict well. The first is the back and forth she has with herself upon defying Gothel and leaving the tower. And the second is the moment after she is duped by Gothel to return to the tower when she is silently comprehending all she experienced. You can clearly tell she's done a lot of deep thought and conflicted about everything she'd seen, despite being seemingly betrayed. All in all, she's a very solid lead. Flynn Rider has a simpler but just as appealing personality. He might come across as greedy and arrogant initially, but it doesn't take long for us to see his true honorable side as Eugene. He's also fearless and determined, but he's humble enough to realize the error of his ways through his conduct. I'd compare him to Aladdin for obvious reasons. Both are thieves, both assume a false identity, and both develop good chemistry with the one that they fall for, etc., etc. But while Flynn may not show as much remorse as Aladdin for his thieving ways, it's pretty clear as the movie progresses that he does yearn for the chance to ditch his fake persona and return to being Eugene again. That's something many of us can identify with, the desire to be true to ourselves instead of constantly putting on a false bravado. And while Flynn may not have the instant social charm of Rapunzel, despite how desperately he tries, he is eventually able to win over those who are initially suspicious of him or treat him as the enemy, which means his honorable side does not go unnoticed. Frozen's lead characters might be more aligned with reality, excluding the whole magical powers thing, of course, but they're also a bit underwhelming in comparison. Although Disney did well in making Elsa arguably the most complex and confused lead in any of its animated movies, it feels as though the designers went overboard with this aim. Thus, I ended up finding her more inconsistent than anything else. She's also a tad overdramatic. I get that the designers were wanting for her to really show us her emotional conflicts, but she does take it a bit far at times. Anna is better. We know she's naive, and we know she's socially awkward but wants to be more open. And we also know she's optimistic and determined despite her numerous setbacks. Her multifaceted personality, like Rapunzel, makes her a solid lead. Still though, the only change we really see in her is a realization that she shouldn't rush to fall in love with the first man who sweeps her off her feet. And as big of a lesson as that is, it's disappointing that for such a multifaceted character in such a multi-layered movie, that's all she learns. Ultimately, Tangled's lead characters are better rounded. Disney keeps the focus on them, and thus we are able to see more clarity in Rapunzel and Eugene. With Frozen, Disney tries to make the leads complex, and while it works for the most part, Tangled's leads stay strong from start to finish. This point goes to Tangled.
We are cutting ice, 'cause we are cutting ice.
All great Disney animated movies need a great villain. In Tangled, Mother Gothel is established as the villain less than a minute in, and what a villain she turns out to be. In Frozen, the true main villain isn't revealed until 3/4 of the way through the movie, and depending on your own perspective, you either love it or you hate it. However, the twist has more to do with story than character, so I'm going to disregard that for now and cover that later. Instead, I'm going to focus on what the villains were able to accomplish before their typical Disney demise. Both Mother Gothel and Prince Hans are extremely manipulative. Mother Gothel kidnaps Rapunzel, raises the girl as her own, and convinces her that the tower is her only means of protection from the cruelty of the outside world. Later, she wins over the Stabbington brothers with promises of revenge on Flynn Rider and divulges Rapunzel's secret to them before knocking them out to feign heroism and convince Rapunzel to return with her. In smoothly executing such well-concocted schemes, Gothel has us feeling her presence even when she's not visible on screen. Now that is sinister. Prince Hans schemes the same way, duping Anna into an engagement and slowly turning himself into a hero in the eyes of Arendale's people as part of a vicious ploy to seize the throne. Hans understands the personalities of the people he interacts with and uses them to his own benefits, as highlighted by how he appeals to their different desires and emotions. So how does this all add up? Well, I have to say that as much as I enjoy Mother Gothel, upon comparing both villains' achievements, Prince Hans is more impressive. Gothel manipulates a child who she raised herself and exploited two criminals driven by revenge. Hans fools an entire kingdom and its guests. Clearly, the latter is far more challenging to pull off than the former, although it is still impressive that Gothel managed to keep Rapunzel hidden for 18 years, not too far from her homeland, I might add. If I'm only choosing a favorite based on nothing more than preference, I would choose Gothel, but since accomplishments matter, Hans wins this point for Frozen.
We are cutting ice, 'cause we are cutting ice.
This is the only category in which there is a clear runaway winner. In this case, Tangled's supporting characters are leagues above Frozen's. Vibrant personalities just aren't there for the latter. Kristoff, while courageous, loyal, and somewhat relatable, is boring. He's also inconsistent at being the supposedly socially awkward match for Anna, as he doesn't even show that side of him until after the two are driven off a cliff by Elsa's abominable snowman. In fact, he starts out being pretty stern toward her. Sven tries hard to appear charming, but doesn't really pull it off. Instead, he comes across as little more than a filler character. Olaf seems to be in the movie primarily for merchandising, and not as much of a comic relief as he might have been intended to be. If he's supposed to be silly and heartwarming, he does fall short. The trolls make 2 appearances and do nothing but annoy. Only their elder is useful for anything. On the other hand, Tangled supporting characters don't even have to say a word to shine. I've already discussed the royal parents and how their powerful emotions are conveyed through their expressions alone. We also have Pascal, the loyal chameleon sidekick, who only needs a simple smirk or gesture to make us all chuckle. Man, don't you wish you have a pet like him? Even the thugs at the Snuggly Duckling have personalities that are flushed out thanks to the Dream Song. Personalities that are further showcased later in the movie during their rescue of Eugene and celebration of Rapunzel's return. Of course, we can't forget about Maximus. This darn horse alone is enough to trump Frozen's entire supporting cast. The way he acts like a dog, the way he responds to affection, the way he wears his emotions on his sleeve, everything about him is downright hilarious. I could watch his scenes all day and never get tired of them. Maximus, along with Pascal, completely stole the show without uttering a single word, and Disney knew it, seeing as how the animated short that serves as the movie's sequel revolves around their craziness. There is simply no contest for this point. Tangled wins it easily. And thus, with the score tied at 3 apiece, it all comes down to story.
We are cutting ice, 'cause we are cutting ice.
Like almost everything else about the movie itself, Tangled's plot follows the traditional Disney formula. Boy meets girl, boy and girl fall in love, villain tries to keep them apart, villain is defeated, and it all concludes with a happy ending. Frozen's story deviates from the standard formula as it centers on the attempt to salvage a relationship between 2 sisters that had practically become almost estranged. But it does borrow heavily from The Lion King, which certainly contributed to its massive success. While Frozen's story is easy to follow, I do have a few issues with it. Like its lead characters, the aim to make the story complex resulted in a loosely tied chain of events instead of a solidly connected tale. Right from the start, plot holes are noticeable. Does the movie really mean to tell us that Elsa and Anna never had any form of significant interaction for all the years that they grew up in the same castle? Come on. And in the end, I'm not convinced that Elsa can turn her feelings around so quickly and take full control over her powers just like that, especially given her lengthy battles with her inner demons throughout the movie and the pure destruction and devastation of the scene that directly precedes it. Then there's the problem with focus. Throughout the film, the story keeps jumping around. While this could have been done on purpose to tie everything in it with all the twists that happen in the last fourth of the movie, it weakens the plot by making us wonder which story we are supposed to be following. Is Anna's main goal to bridge the gap between her and Elsa, or is it to find true love? Kristoff enters the picture and gets his own song unrelated to Anna's quest. So does that mean the main focus is now on his developing relationship with Anna, or is it still on Anna's attempt to find Elsa? The movie tries its best to balance the two, but Kristoff's part does steal some of the spotlight. Then there's Olaf, who also gets his own song that does not tie into what's supposed to be the main focus. Is he now the center of this movie? Sure, there's nothing wrong with keeping the audience in anticipation of seeing the twist at the end, but Frozen seems to disregard focusing on a primary story during the bulk of the movie. As the film starts to work every character in, it also starts distracting us from the main plot. I don't mind that we get to see a budding romance with Kristoff, or that Olaf desires to experience summer. But when these side stories try to do too much, they begin interfering with the story we're supposed to be following. Thus, what we get in the end is a plot that feels more hastily strung together than well crafted. On the other hand, Tangled's story is its greatest strength. It has a perfect setup. Within the first 5 minutes, we already have all our reasons for the movie's events. We know why the flower is magical, how Rapunzel inherited its healing powers, why Mother Gothel kidnapped her, why her hair has grown long, and why she's kept locked away. Then, as the film progresses, the order of the scenes are firmly bound together and flow smoothly. There is never any debate over whose story this is. Every scene that happens is tied to the meeting and developing relationship between Rapunzel and Flynn, and there is clear chemistry between the two, so we actually believe they're falling in love. Sure, it's another 3-day romance, but this is still Disney. The villain is worked in flawlessly. From the time she discovers what happened to Rapunzel to the moment that her plan to recapture the girl is complete, I always felt that Mother Gothel was watching everything. I only have 2 small gripes with the story. The first is that we never get to see how Gothel winds up chaining Rapunzel in the tower after declaring herself to be the bad guy. Although I have no doubt that she's more than capable of doing it, her scenes with Rapunzel before and after capture show that her subject would not have gone down easy. Still though, I understand that it's a PG-rated Disney movie, so maybe the struggle is just too violent to be shown. The second is the teardrop that heals Flynn at the end. I know it's connected to the sun drop that blessed the healing flower in the first scene of the movie, but I feel that the creators could have tied the 2 scenes together better. But hey, I'm just being nitpicky here. Tangled's side characters may have stolen the show, but they did not steal the story like Frozen's tried to do. Pascal, Maximus, the Snuggly Duckling thugs, and all the others only help to advance the main plot with every appearance they make. They enter as needed, provide us with just enough to push the story forward, and step away so the spotlight never leaves Rapunzel and Flynn. They clearly know their roles as the supporting cast, never once trying to interfere and inject their own stories. There is a lot to enjoy about Frozen's story. I love the ironic twist Disney pulls on us by making Hans the villain, and it's executed seamlessly. Disney has long established that it's a master of dramatic irony, but apparently, situational irony is in the company's blood as well. The snowstorm scene toward the conclusion, when everything comes together between Elsa, Anna, Hans, and Kristoff, culminating in Anna's sacrifice, is a phenomenal testament to Disney's ability to keep us glued to their movies, even though we know the ending will be a positive one, and even though it did feel a little bit like it was rushing toward the conclusion. Certainly, I respect Disney even more now for taking a risk and making Frozen the way it did. And while I may have pointed out some of the story's setbacks, it is still a highly enjoyable story overall. That said though, because Tangled's story is more tightly woven and does not deviate from its focus, Tangled gets the final point.
We are cutting ice, 'cause we are cutting ice.
Both Tangled and Frozen are outstanding movies that serve to remind us Disney magic is alive and kicking. Tangled takes the best elements from the Disney Renaissance and blends them into one solid film. The story is strong, the lead characters are active and very well developed, and its supporting characters are an absolute delight. I'm still surprised Pascal and Maximus have yet to receive their own spin-off show, as I don't feel that the short sequel does them justice. Frozen takes a gamble by deviating from the traditional Disney formula that many of the company's best animated movies are built upon. While its story may not be its greatest strength, Frozen as a whole is definitely a movie worthy of all the praise that it has received and will continue to do so. Whether you like it or not, Frozen Mania may be far from over. So Tangled narrowly wins this battle, but I know the debate will rage on. Do you agree with my reasons? Leave a comment and let me know. Until next time, this is John the Great signing off. Thanks for watching.